Valdosta prides itself on being a city without limits. Home to more than 56,000 people, the city is metropolitan. That's more than 56,000 people living without limits, or so the city says. In the early 1900s, Valdosta was run by trolley systems, successful then and used by many. The last remnant of the streetcar line we have now is the waiting station on the grounds of Valdosta State University at the entrance on Patterson Street. With the help of our local councilwomen, Southern Georgia Regional Commissioners J.D. Dillard and Corey Hall, as well as Danny Saturday of MIDS Transportation, there is hope Valdosta will get the funding and support it needs to give the city the transit it deserves. South Regional Commission has been working firsthand on transit in Valdosta. Corey Holt and J.D. Dillard serve on the Valdosta-Lowndes County Metropolitan Planning Organization to better educate, promote, and one day transition into making Valdosta more transit-friendly.
My name is J.D. Dillard. I'm the Transit and Mobility Coordinator at the Southern Georgia Regional Commission. On the day-to-day, I oversee the Department of Human Services Coordinated Transportation System, as well as develop transit development plans for the counties within our 18-county service region. The Valdosta Urbanized Area Public Transit Implementation Plan is the culmination of the pilot shuttle program, a cost-benefit analysis, as well as a combination of a previous study with that cost-benefit analysis into a possible final transit implementation for Valdosta. It began with the pilot shuttle program, which started in 2014 and was organized through DHS, the Department of Human Services. We ran the numbers that we got from the pilot shuttle program into a cost-benefit analysis. We also combined the Tyndale-Oliver study that was done the previous year about transit implementation and compared the pilot shuttle and the Tyndale-Oliver study. We then took the numbers from both of these and ran them through a local cost scenario under federal guidelines. And this was the culmination of the report. Public transit has been studied almost since about 2001, when Valdosta became an urbanized area, and we've had about 5 or 6 different plans throughout the years to take a look at public transit and its possible forms. Most people understand urban areas as the inner city. According to federal regulations, the urban area for Valdosta actually extends beyond the city limits of Valdosta to include Hayhira and Moody Air Force Base. Most people locally consider this county or country and rural, but federal regulations again dictate that these are urban areas. So when we talk about urban public transit, we have to consider the county and the city and local governments as well. The biggest pushback comes from finding a way to fund that local match of the $300,000 to $500,000. Local decision makers are weighing, how do we fund it? Is it through a special purpose local option sales tax, a general sales tax, or property tax, or is it through the formation of a transit authority, which has the power to levy taxes? There's several different ways to raise the local money, but it's what's going to be the best for the citizens overall.
Valdosta doesn't have big city buses or crowded subways, but still, there are options.
VSU offers a free shuttle to their students, and it's technically accessible by the public, but because of its limited route, it's not exactly useful to the general population.
Transportation? Yes, ma'am. All right, you want to schedule a trip?
Currently, the Lowndes County Public Transit System is available. Citizens can call 24 hours in advance and schedule a ride. It's $3 for the first 10 miles and then 50 cents a mile after that.
MIDS Transportation owns and operates the current transit buses Valdosta does operate on. They've been operating for years now, but the system isn't ideal and does involve planning on the rider's part.
I'm Danny Saturday. I'm the Director of Operations for MIDS Transportation Incorporated, located here in Valdosta, Georgia. I've been with MIDS since 2001. What we're running here, as with all the rural public transit programs, is a 24-hour advance reservation demand response program. That means you have to call and request a ride 24 hours in advance of the actual ride. In our particular situation here, we have a 12 o'clock noon cutoff time. In Valdosta alone, we have, in the Lowndes County Transit, we have a total of 8 vehicles that are under the 5311 Rural Public Transportation Program. And we also have some of our private fleet that provides service in the community as well, probably about 7 or 8 vehicles that we run in conjunction with the 5311 vehicles. And in the surrounding counties, we have vehicles from Brooks County Transit and Cook County Transit that provide service in and out of Lowndes County on a daily basis as well.
It has the people's name and where they're getting picked up from. And if I can't find who I'm looking for on the side, it has a little button over here that I can match details, which is this, and it gives me all the information exactly where they're from, the amount that they're supposed to pay, just because I can't get my paperwork.
In a recent interview with us, MIDS driver Kenesha Spates explains to us that typically her busiest days are Mondays and Wednesdays. She also expressed that she has a great familiarity with her patrons. She stated that there is quite a bit of misconception on who is able to utilize MIDS transportation. It's not only for the elderly, she says, anyone can receive a ride, younger or older.
My name is Elijah Bennett, and I work at eLead 1, Fresh Beginning, CRM. The shuttle was a very big convenience for me. A few months back, I had to use it because I didn't have a car, didn't have a means to get this. So, there's a local number that you use. You call that number, they pick up the shuttle comes to your home, picks you up, and then it goes on this daily routine. It picks up all the customers and then takes everybody to work.
While MIDS is a great option for those without transportation reliability, a 24-hour option would be ideal for those who may have last-minute wishes.
The process for calling into Valdosta's bus system is easy to follow. It's just a few steps. First, make sure you're calling the Lowndes Transit 24 hours in advance at 229-316-2153. Next, the dispatcher will ask you some simple questions such as where you need to be picked up, where you're going, and at what time. The dispatcher may ask if you need any assistance. However, the transit system is wheelchair accessible and very accommodating. Lastly, once all your information is confirmed, you can await your ride and pay your fee when you get on the bus.
These dispatchers in here receive the calls from the transit programs that requesting public trips each day. They call in and they'll take the call, take the address that they need to be picked up at, the destination they need to be taken to. They'll enter it into the computer scheduling software that we have that helps us with scheduling and dispatching all the trips that we do each day to get all the pieces of the puzzle put together and dispatched out to our drivers that are located throughout the region that we serve to perform the trips.
I'd like to request for a bus tomorrow. Yeah, I'm gonna need it for work.
The thing I don't get is the 24 hours in advance thing, because for some people they're gonna have some emergency or they're gonna have some situation to where they don't have 24 hours in advance to call ahead for it. I'd say at least 30 minutes to an hour, something to where you have a good bit of heads up, but nothing to where it's like, I have to literally call 24 hours.
First and foremost is our limited hours of operation based on the funding that we have available right now from the state and federal and local agencies. Right now we're operating from 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday only, and everybody knows that those needs are not, there's needs way beyond those hours of operation. That would involve work, education, and then personal reasons on the weekend for sure, shopping and visitation of family members and things like that. I know there's a lot of needs unmet that goes on outside the scope of our hours of operation.
I've been at Valdosta for about 3.5 years now. After my freshman year at Valdosta State, I started working at this little fast food joint called Zacadoo's. It was literally walking distance within the dorms that I lived at. So that's what I decided to do, because I don't have a car. Walking, it take about 20 minutes to walk there. Honestly, one of the more shadier parts of Valdosta along Bay Tree Street. Sometimes I would just be walking home in dark Valdosta. There's always the risk of, just drivers passing by, or even, some drunk coming out of Ashley Street Station coming out and attacking me for no apparent reasons.
The city of Valdosta would not only benefit from a public transportation for commuter reasons, but for safety precautions as well. Valdosta is a small city. However, citizens still occasionally are witnesses to nonviolent and violent crimes. One of the most well-known places for armed robberies over the past few years has been Drexel Park, across from VSU, off Patterson Street. Walking is always an option for those with no vehicular access, but most citizens who walk alone often leave themselves open and vulnerable to criminal activity. In this past year alone, Valdosta has seen a number of local robberies. There are several areas in the city that have lighting issues. Criminals are aware of these dark areas and where the most popular routes are for pedestrians, and they use this knowledge to their advantage. As a local taxpayer or anyone who invests money into this city, having to walk home at night after a long day of work simply because you don't have an option for transportation is inexcusable.
There's been a few times where I got off work late and I didn't really have a way to get home. I would kind of hang around the building and try to ask people what time they got off so I could figure out a time to get home myself.
The safety of those who reside in the city should always be the number one concern. A public transportation system would cause a decrease in local robbery statistics.
In 2014, students at VSU conducted an environmental justice study here in Lowndes County that explored on a census block level areas that had low vehicular access, high levels of poverty, as well as low educational levels. And we determined what census blocks had the highest crossover of these factors to determine who might be in need of transit.
Have I missed work because I didn't have a car? Multiple times. Well, the job's on the other side of town. I live near VSU, Baytree area, so not having a car kind of puts me in a bind every time I have to go to work. Walking to work has been an option for me multiple times. You know, with me not having a car, I have to think about how long it would take me to get to work if I actually walked. I checked my Google Maps. It takes about 2 hours, 45 minutes, and it's not a fun walk.
For Zacadoo's, it takes about 20 minutes to leave, so I would leave at about 30 minutes before my shift started, which is usually in like the afternoon thanks to classes and such.
Citizens use transit for many reasons. Going to and from work ranks high. Shopping and medical trips are all concerns in places riders travel to.
The pilot shuttle showed us that there was definitely a need and demand for public transportation services. We saw month-to-month ridership increases, and that led us to believe that the public would utilize the service if it were available. Citizens who live in the environmental and justice areas that we identified earlier as having low vehicular access, low income and low educational levels would benefit the most by simply having access to resources like educational services, retail services, job access, and social services downtown. We started with the shuttle program at the Mildred Hunter Community Center as it was the center of the environmental justice study for areas that didn't have vehicular access, low income as well. And then we decided areas in the community that might benefit, so social service sites, local retail sites like Walmart, downtown service centers, as well as the Woodrow Wilson Library. We saw general shuttle usage go pretty well all day. Peak times were probably the 12 to 1 o'clock time slot, as well as the morning and evenings, so 7 a.m. and then 6 p.m. when the shuttle ended. We looked at those citizens in the environmental justice areas, and we determined that based on the cost benefit, they would receive the most benefit by having access to things like jobs and basic services.
In a recent study, it was revealed that about 50% of citizens in Valdosta would use the public transit 5 or more days a week, and 31% who were asked said they would ride 3 to 4 days per week.
Based on the studies we've done in the past, and the most recent study done by Tyndall Oliver, the implementation would take about $1.2 million.
There is debate over how to fund public transit. Rider user fees and advertising revenue can only fund so much. The city would have to consider alternate tax increases as well.
Now this would include the purchase of vehicles as well as the development of bus stops and signage for such a program. But locally that would break down to about $300,000 to $500,000 at the local level. But based on our estimates and the recent studies, anywhere from $1 to $5 per trip. But there's also an option for a monthly pass. And we've seen monthly passes range from $30 up to $100 per month.
Honestly, the $50 price is not that bad of an idea. I mean, it's one of those with how much that's going to be going into this transit system and how often it's probably going to be going around. It's probably a good idea to have it as a nice high price as that.
The models that I have seen has like a north-south, east-west type route to try to cover as much of the areas of Lowndes County and Valdosta, and trying to identify places where people would probably want to go. be it the shopping areas, medical areas, Social Security offices, probably Moody Air Force Base out to the north there. You know, that's the one thing you want to do is make sure you are providing a service and in areas where people want to go to. Back at the beginning of the 5311 program, we tried to guess where people wanted to go, and we started trying to run a fixed route in conjunction with the demand response. We would start in Lake Park and stop at several points along the way into Valdosta. We'd start it in Hayhire and do the same thing to Valdosta, and we found out that we were running empty most of the time during this dedicated time. Offering these type of rides at a discounted fare, people would still rather pay the normal fare, let us go directly to their address, pick them up, take them to their destination. So as with any system, there's no two systems alike, and you're gonna have to tweak these type of operations.
When asked where they would want to go, Valdosta citizens' most reoccurring responses were the mall, downtown, Inner Perimeter Road, and the hospital.
Public transportation puts the city at a disadvantage, at least the people that live here.
I know that for some students, it's not just, like getting to and from work, although that is an issue for some. For some students, you can't afford like on-campus options, or they can't eat certain things that they offer on campus, so they need to go like grocery shopping. So I think that if nothing else, it would help like those students, it would help our community be a little bit better connected.
There's not enough public transportation because in a place like this, a lot of people don't have vehicles, a means of transportation for themselves. So, one bus carrying loads of people, it kind of puts the city at a disadvantage as far as public transportation goes.
Yes, there is a need here. Valdosta has reached that size, population-wise, that they're going to have to move to the next level, which is a 5307 urban system, which would still be funded under FTA. There's federal money available to provide capital to buy the vehicles and put the assets in service, but the main problem is the operating of these systems, which is a lot more costly than running the rural public system. And we've got to have someone to commit to that financial responsibility here to move it to the next level. There's a lot of discussions going on at this time between the counties and the cities, and they've done some feasibility studies, and they have several options available for trying to put this into reality. And I think the 5311 rural public system could work hand in hand with the urbanized system if they do get it in place, by being able to bring people in from the rural county areas of Lowndes and surrounding counties to a shuttle station where they could access the urban system to do their final leg of their trip, say to their final destination, once they get from the outlying areas into the metropolitan area.
Transportation in Valdosta is a need for many, yet luxury to few. Your local councilwomen, South Regional Transit, as well as MIDS Transportation are all working diligently to provide the best for our community. With the right amount of time, resources, and support, Valdosta can and will be a city without limits.
For more information on Valdosta's transit system, contact J.D. Dillard or Corey Hall with South Georgia Regional Transit, or Danny Saturday with MIDS Transportation.